So the funny thing is, I didn't ask for permission. I didn't ask for advice, and respectfully, I didn't ask for directions. And I will never forget the moment that she looked at me and she said, "You are extraordinary." It was a normal day in the newsroom, lots of controlled chaos, people buzzing around. And she summoned me into her office and she took off her glasses and she looked at me and she called me extraordinary. Just one word, one woman, one meeting. And maybe you have never sat in a newsroom, or you've never, anchored a newscast. You've never had your head on a giant billboard or like the side of a bus. But I know you can relate to this moment. The moment when the person who's holding the power notices your work. And in this case, she was the general manager. And in a newsroom, the GM is not just a title, she is the decision maker. She is the direction. She's the destiny of every person in that building. And she looked at me across that desk and she said one word: extraordinary. Full stop. And then came the promotion to main evening anchor. And that moment, it did not arrive by accident. Nobody handed me a chance. I had earned it quietly, deliberately, and consistently. And here's the thing. Nobody sees the work. You know this. They don't see the preparation, not the patience, not the 3 a.m. idea that leads to the story, that leads to the Emmy. Nobody's watching when the idea strikes. Nobody's watching you refine, recalibrate, rewrite for the umpteenth time. You execute work that nobody credited. You constructed something that nobody tracked. And you became someone nobody anticipated. I never invited them to witness the work. They never got an invite to the show. And that choice for me is deliberate. You don't want them to see you coming. Think about it. Consider the gym. Nobody's there to see you execute the workouts that you, quite frankly, didn't want to show up for in the first place. Nobody sees the demand for discipline and the dedication required to achieve those results. But one day, you walk into that room, everybody sees it. The work is impossible to ignore. And suddenly, everybody claims they always knew. The sweat was always there. The sacrifice was always there. The standard was always there, but they were never invited to witness the work. Years ago, my colleagues gave me a nickname. They called me the People Whisperer because I built a brand on securing the goods. And that meant get the interview. Get the person everyone wanted to hear from, the guy who recorded the scene that nobody could look away from. And if you were my producer, you knew you had gold for the top of your A block. And I accomplished that, not by being the most polished, most perfect, or thinking I was the most prominent, but by being the most present and the most prepared and the most genuinely interested and invested in the person across the lens. You possess your own version of that, the quality that magnetizes rooms that aren't ready to receive your power. The force that people, they can't name it, but they can't stop pursuing it either. That is your job, to own it, to name it, and deploy it. Because nobody granted me permission. And believe me when I say nobody's coming to grant you permission either. We surrender so much of our time waiting for acknowledgement, waiting for permission, waiting for that promotion that reflects the work that, you've already been executing at the level for years. I didn't ask for permission, advice, or directions. I claimed that power for myself. The general manager is me, and the general manager is you too. And once you discover this, that is really where things get interesting, because the same person who called me extraordinary also wanted me contained, confined, controlled. They celebrated my power until that power defied their plans. And when I announced I was leaving, they didn't offer any support because my growth had become something they could no longer manage or measure or manipulate. And really, people want to keep you small. And sometimes it's just out of fear. Sometimes it's ego. And sometimes it is the oldest thing inside any institution. It's just control. contain the asset, define the lane, keep the variable predictable, and keep the power centralized. They construct that box and they assign a bracket and they hand you a lane and they label it as opportunity. When really, I can't be confined to one lane. I came here to purchase the road. You're not a lane. You're not a label either. You're a builder. You are a bridge. Your through line was never the medium, it's the mission. The lane is just a limitation. It's disguised as a direction. So stop requesting a lane and start acquiring the road. You got to get comfortable being uncomfortable, because that is where growth lives. That is where the next opportunity reveals itself. And that is how you ascend. Also get comfortable hearing others broadcast their discomfort around your growth. Their unease is not your emergency. Their resistance is not your responsibility. And honestly, their ceiling was never your concern. You know, anchoring a newscast is really just mastering the art of the pivot. Prompter fails, story gets dropped, the reporter's not ready. It's the anchor's job to pivot seamlessly in order to execute that. And in order to do that, you have to be in the present moment. And when you apply that to work and life in general, mastering that pivot unlocks the most authentic version of you. And when you do that, people are going to ask, I know this from experience, how did they do that? How did they build that? How did they make that move? They didn't witness the work behind the scenes. They didn't see the show behind the show because they were never invited. But they won't be able to look away from the preparation that precedes every room, from the persistence that didn't just hold your seat, but it bought the damn table. That GM may have granted me permission to promote that day, but I gave myself permission to pivot from a career I had outgrown. And that GM in that room, the one who loved me so much, she was really upset to see me go. But respectfully, she was right from the jump. And what I've been working on, what I am so excited to share with you very, very soon, is nothing short of extraordinary.